1. The Mariana Trench. Nearly 7 miles below the surface of the Pacific Ocean lies the deepest point on Earth, a place more hostile to human life than the vacuum of space. The Challenger Deep, at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, has been visited by exactly 3 people in human history. More humans have walked on the moon, more have orbited the Earth, more have summited Everest in a single season than have ever touched the floor of our own ocean. At 36,000 feet below sea level, the pressure exceeds 16,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a submarine like an aluminum can. The temperature hovers just above freezing. Perpetual darkness has reigned since the ocean formed billions of years ago. Light has never reached the bottom. Neither has meaningful exploration. In 1960, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh descended in the bathyscaphe at Trieste, spending 20 minutes at the bottom before ascending. They reported seeing a flatfish moving across the sediment, a creature that, according to biological science at the time, should not exist at that depth. The pressure should have crushed any complex organism. Their sighting was dismissed as misidentification, a convenient jellyfish mistaken for something more significant. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron made the second descent in the Deep-Sea Challenger, spending 3 hours on the ocean floor. He described the environment as desolate and barren, a desert of pale mud with no visible life. His footage contradicted Walsh's account. Or perhaps they simply observed different areas of a vast, unexplored frontier. In 2019, Victor Vescovo became the 3rd person to reach the bottom. He discovered plastic pollution at the deepest point on Earth, a candy wrapper where no human had ever been. He also reported seeing something he could not identify, a shape moving in the darkness beyond his lights. He declined to speculate further. 3 visits, less than 24 combined hours of human observation. That is our total knowledge of the deepest place on the planet. 80% of the ocean floor remains unmapped. We have more detailed surveys of the surface of Mars than we do of the seabed beneath our own ships. Autonomous drones could map the trenches. Submersibles could document the life that exists at extreme depth. Advanced cameras could illuminate the darkness. The technology is available. The funding is not. Proposals to establish permanent deep-sea monitoring stations have been rejected repeatedly. Requests for comprehensive biological surveys of the Hadal Zone, the deepest ocean layer, are declined, citing budget priorities. The agencies that control oceanographic research have decided that other priorities come first. Space exploration receives billions. Deep-sea exploration receives almost nothing. If the Mariana Trench holds nothing of interest, why have only 3 humans ever visited? If deep-sea research is a priority, why is 80% of the ocean floor still unknown? And if we can send rovers to Mars, probes to the outer planets, and telescopes to photograph distant galaxies, why can we not explore the abyss beneath our own oceans? 2. North Sentinel Island. In the Bay of Bengal, approximately 50 kilometers west of Myanmar, lies an island that has remained untouched by modern civilization for an estimated 60,000 years. North Sentinel Island is home to the Sentinelese, an indigenous tribe that has violently rejected every attempt at contact with the outside world. The island measures approximately 60 square kilometers. Dense jungle covers its interior. No outsider has ever mapped its features, documented its ecosystems, or cataloged its species. The Sentinelese have made certain of that. In 1974, a National Geographic film crew attempted to land on the island. They were met with a barrage of arrows. The director was struck in the thigh. The crew retreated. In 2006, 2 fishermen whose boat drifted onto the island's shore were killed. Their bodies were never recovered. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow illegally traveled to the island to convert the tribe to Christianity. He was killed on the beach. His body remains on the island. The Indian government has declared it illegal to approach within 5 nautical miles of North Sentinel Island. Flights are prohibited from passing overhead at low altitude. The exclusion zone is enforced by the Indian Navy. The official justification is protection. The Sentinelese have no immunity to common diseases. Contact with the outside world could exterminate them within months. The policy, authorities claim, is for their benefit, but the exclusion zone also ensures that the island remains unexplored. No one knows how the Sentinelese live, what language they speak, or what knowledge they have preserved across 60 millennia of isolation. No one knows what the island's interior contains, what species have evolved in isolation, or what resources might exist beneath its soil. The Sentinelese are the most isolated human population on Earth. Their ancestors left Africa during the original human migration and have had no meaningful contact with other humans since. They represent a living window into humanity's deep past, and we are forbidden from looking through it. If protection is the goal, why not study the island remotely using drones or satellites? If contact is too dangerous, why not monitor from a distance to document their culture before it disappears? And if the Sentinelese are truly left alone for their benefit, why does the exclusion zone prevent all research, not just physical contact? 3. Doong Cave. In 1990, a Vietnamese farmer named Ho Can stumbled upon a hole in the jungle floor while searching for food. Wind rushed from the opening, suggesting a massive void below. He marked the location but could not find it again for 2 decades. The jungle swallowed the entrance as if the earth itself wanted to keep the secret. In 2009, British cave explorers located the entrance with Khan's help and descended into what would prove to be the largest cave passage ever discovered. Son Doong, meaning Mountain River Cave, is so vast that a Boeing 747 could fly through its main chamber without touching the walls. Entire city blocks could fit inside. Skyscrapers could stand upright and not reach the ceiling. The cave extends over 5 miles into the earth. Its largest chamber measures over 650 feet high and nearly 500 feet wide. The scale defies comprehension. Entire ecosystems exist within its passages. A river flows through the darkness, carving its way through stone that has been forming for millions of years. Jungle vegetation grows where skylights, collapsed sections of ceiling, allow sunlight to penetrate. The cave has its own weather system. Clouds form inside, drifting beneath stone ceilings, raining on underground forests. Yet vast sections of Son Doong remain unexplored. The cave branches into passages too narrow for human entry and chambers too dangerous to access. Rock falls threaten expedition teams. Underground rivers disappear into sumps that have never been dived. What lies beyond the mapped areas is unknown. What species have evolved in the isolated darkness has not been catalogued. The cave could extend for miles beyond what we have seen. The Vietnamese government tightly restricts access to Son Doong. Only a few hundred visitors per year are permitted, each paying thousands of dollars for guided tours of designated routes. Scientific expeditions require special permits that are rarely granted, subject to extensive bureaucratic review. The restrictions, officials claim, are necessary for preservation. But preservation through restriction means ignorance. The cave's full extent has not been surveyed. Its unique species have not been documented. The geological history recorded in its formations has not been studied. Mineral deposits, ancient fossils, endemic organisms, all await discovery in passages no human has entered. The largest cave on Earth remains largely a mystery, not because exploration is impossible, but because it is not permitted. In 2014, a Vietnamese company proposed installing a cable car into the cave to increase tourism. The proposal was rejected after international outcry from conservationists. The threat of commercialization was defeated. But the same restrictions that block cable cars also block scientists. If commercial development threatens the cave, why not permit scientific research that could document its wonders before they are lost to natural collapse or unauthorized entry? If Son Doong is worth protecting, why is it not worth studying? If access must be limited, why are scientists not prioritized over tourists? And if the largest cave in the world contains passages no human has entered, no ecosystems no biologist has documented, what waits in the darkness beyond the reach of our lights? 4. Gangkhar Puensum. At 24,836 feet, Gangkhar Puensum is the highest unclimbed mountain on Earth. Located on the border between Bhutan and Tibet, it has defeated every expedition that attempted its summit before climbing was banned entirely. 4 expeditions attempted Gangkhar Puensum between 1985 and 1994. All failed. Severe weather, treacherous terrain, and logistical challenges turned back climbers who had conquered peaks far more famous. The mountain remained undefeated. In 1994, Bhutan banned all mountaineering above 6,000 meters. The official reason was spiritual. Mountains in Bhutan are considered sacred, then home to protective deities that should not be disturbed. Climbing them, the government declared, would anger the spirits and bring misfortune to the nation. The ban has remained in place for 30 years. No exceptions have been granted. No expeditions have been approved. Gangkhar Puensum stands as the last great unclimbed summit, its peak untouched by human feet. Some climbers have considered approaching from the Tibetan side where Bhutan's ban does not apply. But China has also restricted access, citing environmental concerns and border security. The mountain is effectively sealed from both nations. What exists at the summit of Gangkhar Puensum is unknown. What geological features mark its peak, what conditions prevail at its highest elevations, what views await the first human to stand there, all remain undocumented. Like the technology to reach the summit exists, the permission does not. If the ban is spiritual, why does it apply to scientific research as well as mountaineering? If the mountain is sacred, why not allow remote observation using drones or satellites? And if Bhutan truly believes climbing angers the gods, what have they observed on the mountain that convinced them of that belief? 5. Vale do Javari. In western Brazil, along the border with Peru, lies an expanse of rainforest larger than Austria. The Vale do Javari is home to at least 14 uncontacted tribes, indigenous peoples who have never had peaceful interaction with the outside world. Entry is illegal. The penalty is imprisonment. The territory covers 85,000 square kilometers of dense jungle, riverine ecosystems, and unexplored wilderness. The tribes living within it have observed aircraft, heard chainsaws from illegal logging operations, and fled from attempts at contact. They have chosen isolation. Brazilian law enforces that choice. FUNAI, Brazil's indigenous affairs agency, monitors the territory using flyovers and satellite imagery. They have documented villages, gardens, and trails from the air. They have photographed tribespeople who emerged briefly from the canopy before retreating. But no official has entered the territory to make contact. No researcher has mapped its interior. No scientist has cataloged its species. The Vale do Javari contains ecosystems that have never been studied. Species that exist nowhere else on Earth live within its borders, undocumented and unclassified. Medicinal plants used by isolated tribes, plants that could hold cures for diseases we cannot currently treat, remain unknown to science. In 2011, satellite imagery revealed a previously unknown tribe living in the territory. They had never been photographed before. Their existence was confirmed only by smoke from their fires. Nothing else is known about them. Their language, their customs, their population all remain mysteries. Illegal incursions by loggers, miners, and drug traffickers threaten the Vale do Javari constantly. Armed conflicts between tribes and invaders have been reported. The territory is both protected and besieged, isolated and vulnerable. If protecting uncontacted peoples is the priority, why is the territory not better defended against illegal entry? If scientific research is prohibited to prevent contact, why not conduct remote biological surveys? And if 14 tribes have preserved knowledge for thousands of years in isolation, what happens to that knowledge if they are exterminated by diseases brought by illegal invaders before we ever learn it existed? 6. Lake Vostok. Buried beneath 2.5 miles of Antarctic ice lies a body of fresh water the size of Lake Ontario, sealed from the outside world for an estimated 15 million years. Lake Vostok was suspected in the 1970s, confirmed in 1993, and first penetrated in 2012. Whatever has evolved in its waters has been isolated longer than humans have existed as a species. I say longer than most mammals. Longer than the ice ages that reshaped our world. The lake stretches approximately 160 miles long and 30 miles wide, containing an estimated 5,400 cubic kilometers of liquid water. Liquid water exists at this depth because the immense pressure of the overlying ice lowers the freezing point, and geothermal heat from below keeps temperatures just above freezing. The water has not seen sunlight in 15 million years. Oxygen levels are estimated to be 50 times higher than typical freshwater lakes. Yet it is not sterile. In 2012, after 2 decades of drilling, Russian scientists broke through the ice sheet and reached the lake's surface. They retrieved water samples that froze as they rose through the borehole and found evidence of microbial life. The organisms, adapted to extreme cold, complete darkness, and crushing pressure, were unlike anything found elsewhere on Earth, and some appeared to be entirely new to science. But the drilling operation was controversial. Critics argued that the drill fluid used to keep the borehole open, a mixture of kerosene and freon, could have contaminated the lake, introducing modern organisms into a pristine ancient environment. The samples retrieved may have been compromised. The true nature of Lake Vostok's ecosystem remains uncertain. What Russian scientists found could be ancient life, or it could be contamination from the drilling process. Since 2012, no expedition has returned to drill deeper or collect uncontaminated samples. Proposals to send sterile probes into the lake have been discussed at international conferences, but not funded. Clean drilling technology exists. Robotic submarines capable of operating under the ice exist. The methods to explore Lake Vostok without contamination have been developed. The will to deploy them does not exist. What lives in Lake Vostok after 15 million years of isolation is unknown. What evolutionary pathways developed in total darkness, what biochemistry emerged in conditions found nowhere else on Earth, what secrets the lake holds about life's adaptability and resilience, all remain trapped beneath the ice. The answers to questions about life's origins, its limits, and its potential to exist on ice-covered moons like Europa may lie in an Antarctic lake we have barely touched. If Lake Vostok contains unique life forms isolated for millions of years, why not prioritize uncontaminated research? If the lake has been sealed since before human ancestors walked upright, why was the first drilling operation conducted with potentially contaminating fluids? And if the answers about life's origins and limits lie beneath the Antarctic ice, why is no one committed to finding them? 7. Movile Cave. In southeastern Romania, sealed beneath limestone bedrock, exists a cave that was cut off from the atmosphere 5.5 million years ago. Movile Cave contains air that is toxic to humans, water that has never seen sunlight, and 37 species that exist nowhere else on Earth. The cave was discovered accidentally in 1986 when workers testing the ground for a power plant location broke through the ceiling. What they found was an ecosystem that had evolved in complete isolation since before humans existed. Now, the atmosphere inside Movile Cave contains less than half the oxygen of surface air and is saturated with hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. Humans cannot survive inside without breathing apparatus. The cave is completely dark. No photosynthesis occurs. Instead, the ecosystem is powered by chemosynthesis, bacteria that derive energy from chemical reactions rather than sunlight. The species living in Movile have evolved for millions of years without any genetic exchange with the outside world. Spiders, water scorpions, leeches, and other invertebrates inhabit the cave, all eyeless, all pale, all adapted to conditions that would kill surface organisms. They represent an independent evolutionary experiment, life developing along a completely separate path. Only a handful of researchers have ever entered Movile Cave. Those visits require extensive safety protocols, specialized equipment, and government permits that are rarely granted. The restrictions, officials explain, are necessary to prevent contamination of this pristine environment. But restriction means ignorance. The full extent of the cave has not been mapped. Many of its species have not been formally described. The biochemistry of its chemosynthetic bacteria, which could have applications in medicine and industry, has not been fully studied. If Movile Cave is an irreplaceable scientific resource, why limit research so severely? If contamination is the concern, why not develop sterile observation methods? And if life can evolve independently for 5.5 million years in a toxic cave, what might be waiting in similar environments we have not yet discovered? 8. The Tepuis. Rising from the Venezuelan jungle like islands in the sky, the Tepuis are flat-topped mountains with sheer cliff walls that isolate their summits from the world below. Each Tepui is effectively a biological island where species have evolved in isolation for millions of years. Many have never been visited by humans. The name comes from the indigenous Paiman language, meaning house of the gods. The Tepuis inspired Arthur Conan Doyle's novel The Lost World, in which explorers discover dinosaurs surviving atop an isolated plateau. The reality is different, but no less extraordinary. Mount Roraima, the most famous Tepui, was first submitted in 1884. Its plateau contains species found nowhere else, evolved over millions of years of isolation. Other tepuis, more remote and with more treacherous cliff faces, have never been climbed. Their summits remain unexplored. Over 100 tepuis exist in the Guyana highlands. Some rise over 8,000 feet above the surrounding jungle. The cliffs are vertical, often overhanging, and composed of crumbling sandstone that defeats climbing equipment. Access by helicopter is technically possible, but rarely permitted. In 2004, an expedition attempted to reach the summit of an unclimbed tepui using specialized climbing techniques. They reached the rim, but were forced to retreat by unstable rock and violent weather. The interior of the summit plateau remains unseen. Each unvisited tepui potentially contains unique species, organisms that have evolved solutions to survival found nowhere else on Earth. Endemic plants, insects, and amphibians await discovery. But they wait behind walls of stone that humans have not yet conquered. If tepui ecosystems are biologically unique, why not prioritize aerial surveys? If climbing is too dangerous, why not deploy drones to document the summits? And if dozens of isolated ecosystems exist within a day's flight of major cities, why have we chosen to leave them unexplored? 9. Devon Island. In the Arctic archipelago of northern Canada lies the largest uninhabited island on Earth. Devon Island covers over 55,000 square kilometers, an area larger than Croatia, larger than Denmark, yet no permanent human settlement has existed there since 1951. The island has been abandoned to the polar winds for over 70 years. The island is so barren, so cold, and so Mars-like in its terrain that NASA uses it as a testing ground for Mars exploration technologies. The Houghton impact crater, formed 23 million years ago by an asteroid strike, provides conditions similar to what astronauts might encounter on the Red Planet. Rocky deserts, permafrost, minimal vegetation, and extreme isolation make Devon Island the closest analog to Mars found on Earth. But Devon Island is not just a Mars analog. It is a terrestrial wilderness that has never been thoroughly explored. Vast interior regions have not been mapped in detail. Fossil beds containing evidence of ancient climates from times when the Arctic was warm and forested have been sampled but not exhaustively studied. Polar desert ecosystems that exist nowhere else on Earth remain undocumented. An endemic species of bacteria and extremophiles may inhabit its harshest regions, yet no comprehensive biological survey has been conducted. The last permanent inhabitants left in 1951 when a small Inuit community was relocated by the Canadian government. Since then, only researchers and military personnel have visited, and only temporarily. The interior of the island, far from research stations on the coast, is effectively virgin territory. No roads cross it. No trails mark its valleys. No permanent structures stand in its interior. In 2001, NASA established the Houghton Mars project on Devon Island, conducting simulations of Mars surface operations. Astronauts practice rover deployment, sample collection, and habitat management in conditions designed to mimic the red planet. But the project focuses on Mars, not on Devon Island itself. The surrounding terrain serves as a backdrop, not a subject of study. The island's own mysteries are ignored in favor of preparing for mysteries on another world. If Devon Island offers unique polar ecosystems, why focus only on its Mars analog value? If the interior has never been explored, why not mount dedicated expeditions? And if the largest uninhabited island on Earth contains undiscovered species, geological features, and climate records spanning millions of years, why have we chosen to ignore it in favor of dreaming about other planets? 10. Tsingy de Bemaraha. In western Madagascar rises a forest of stone, a landscape so hostile that the indigenous Malagasy named it Tsingy, meaning where one cannot walk barefoot. Limestone pinnacles up to 200 feet tall form an impenetrable labyrinth, also their edges honed to razor sharpness by millions of years of erosion. The Tsingy de Bemaraha covers nearly 600 square kilometers. Its outer regions have been explored, mapped, and designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But its interior, the dense core of needle-like rock formations, remains largely inaccessible. No trails exist. Climbing is nearly impossible. The stone cuts through rope, shreds equipment, and lacerates flesh. Between the pinnacles, in canyons and caves hidden from aerial observation, unique ecosystems have evolved. Lemurs found nowhere else on Earth live in the Tsingy. Plants adapted to grow in pockets of soil between razor-sharp rocks have never been classified. The region is a biological treasure chest that humans cannot safely open. Expeditions have attempted to penetrate the interior. Now most turn back within days. The terrain is too punishing, the risk of injury too great. Helicopters cannot land among the pinnacles. Drones lose signal in the deep canyons. The Tsingy guards its secrets behind walls of stone. In 2014, a team of researchers using specialized climbing equipment and protective gear managed to reach a previously unexplored canyon in the Tsingy interior. They documented 3 species unknown to science, found water sources never mapped, and photographed formations never seen. Then their equipment failed, and they were forced to retreat. What else exists in the Tsingy interior is unknown. How many undiscovered species live between the stone needles has not been estimated. The deepest canyons, the most isolated caves, remain unexplored not because we choose to leave them alone, but because we cannot reach them. If the Tsingy contains undiscovered species, why not develop specialized technology to explore it? If the outer regions are accessible, why not push deeper? And if a landscape on Earth defeats all human attempts at exploration, what does that say about our assumption that we have conquered this planet? Conclusion. These 10 places are not hidden in distant galaxies or on other worlds. They exist here, on Earth, within reach of modern technology, and yet they remain unexplored. Trenches deeper than mountains are tall. Islands protected by tribes and laws. Caves larger than cathedrals. Mountains no human has climbed. Jungles no outsider has entered. Lakes sealed for 15 million years. Caves isolated for 5 million more. Plateaus surrounded by unclimbable cliffs. Islands too barren for settlement. Landscapes too sharp to walk. The explanations vary. Protection, preservation, spiritual respect, budget constraints, technical difficulty, legal restrictions, diplomatic complications. Each explanation has merit. Each obstacle is real. But collectively they reveal a troubling pattern. We have decided not to explore our own planet. Consider the resources humanity directs elsewhere. We spend billions searching for microbial life on Mars, while Lake Vostok, which may contain life isolated for 15 million years, remains unstudied. We send probes to Europa, hoping to find life beneath its ice, while 80% of our own ocean floor is unmapped. We photograph distant exoplanets thousands of light years away, while Tepuis summits a few hours' flight from major cities have never been seen by human eyes. Well, the unexplored places of Earth are not mysteries because they are unknowable. They are mysteries because we have chosen not to know them. Access is restricted by governments, by geography, by funding agencies that allocate resources elsewhere. Expeditions are blocked by permits that never come, by budgets that never materialize, by priorities that always point toward space rather than depth, toward Mars rather than Mariana. The technology exists. Submersibles can reach the deepest trenches. Drones can survey inaccessible plateaus. Satellites can map the interiors of forbidden territories. Clean drilling systems can penetrate ancient ice without contamination. Specialized climbing equipment can scale the sharpest stone. We have the tools. We lack the commitment. What lives in the Mariana Trench after billions of years of evolution in crushing darkness? What knowledge have the Sentinelese preserved for 60,000 years of continuous isolation? What species evolved in Movile Cave during 5 million years sealed from the world? What waits at the summit of Gangkhar Puensum, the highest point no human has touched? What crawls through the Tsingy canyons no human has seen? What swims in Lake Vostok's ancient waters? These are not questions about other worlds. They are questions about our world. They are questions we could answer with existing technology, sufficient funding, and the will to prioritize discovery over restriction. But we have decided, collectively and deliberately, that we would rather not answer them. We have chosen to look outward when we have not finished looking inward. Or we have chosen to search for life on distant moons when life on our own planet remains undocumented. We have chosen to protect places by ignoring them, to preserve ecosystems by refusing to study them. The unexplored places remain, the barriers remain, and the choice to leave them unknown, the choice to keep Earth's secrets hidden in plain sight, remains the most puzzling mystery of all. We live on a planet we have not finished exploring. And every year that passes, every budget that prioritizes space over depth, every permit that is denied, every expedition that is blocked, is another year those mysteries remain unsolved. Not because they are unsolvable, because we have chosen not to solve them. The unknown is closer than we think. It waits in the depths of our oceans, in the hearts of our jungles, beneath our ice, and atop our mountains. And it will remain unknown as long as we decide it should,